Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1v1 game on the Battle.net unranked solo. And this is going to be me playing against an elf, player Funky Pants, and I'm going to be human, and the map is Twisted Meadows. So this is a 4-player map, so if I'm going to be sort of hyper-aggressive as I plan to here with the Mountain King, first, I'm going to need to, it's going to sort of be very beneficial for me to know where he is relatively early on. So I'm going to actually send one militia out immediately to scout sort of the spawns, right? And I'm going to get a little bit lucky in that it's at least the second spawn and not the third, though, right, I have two chances, right, that it won't be sort of two shots to hit a 1/3 sort of probability of whichever one he's going to be at, right? So it's decent odds that I will land on him on one of the first two, right? But anyways, you know, it's a 2/3 chance that he won't be, you know, at the very last one that I scout at least. So, but anyways, he is going to go for a Tinker build. I've seen this guy do this actually quite a lot. And if you're not careful against this sort of strategy, especially with the way I like to play, sometimes with human, going for sort of really aggressive plays, what can happen? Ooh, okay, I didn't run into that ancient war. That's actually pretty important to save this peasant. Somewhat important. Hold on 1 second. So yeah, it's pretty important that, well, it's nice to keep that peasant alive because it allows me to sort of build some scout farms, build like an arcane vault without having to send another peasant all the way from my base, right? And it also sort of distracts his archer. I suspect, since I've seen him do this before, that he, quite a lot actually, that he is in fact going to go for a Tinker. So I'm going to go towards the center. I'm going to just play hyper aggressively, build up a second barracks. So a lot of times what I try to, or sometimes what I do against Elf is I try just to overwhelm them with the footmen, defend, hope they do something sort of a little bit greedy, get a little bit out of position, and just overwhelm them with militia, towers, footmen. Sometimes I just go footies. I don't really try to tower, sort of working at different angles here. But the problem is if you go footies and just try to engage them in the middle of their main base and build the towers, you're sort of committing, right? And if you overwhelm them, it's great. But if you if you get slightly out of position, or a little bit sloppy, maybe he's not really doing any aggressive Ancient War creeping. So his Ancient War is right in the middle of his, well, it's in his base at the very least. He's got 2 moon wells. So this is basically going to be the strongest point to fight him. He can pull a wisp or 2 and hit a detonate on me. And all of a sudden, I don't, I'm missing, a bolt or 2 that I could have, attacked him with. And then it's like, it's sort of a race against time for him to maybe get up in a Hunter's Hall, him to get up enough archers. Ancient Protector is pretty rough if they actually get it up against the footies, even with Defend, because of the splash damage, the Fortified Armor, and the ability to repair it. And also being ranged, he can put it in sort of an awkward position for me to attack. Now, he wants to sort of cover his building, so he probably would try to get it somewhere around here. But if his base was built a little bit differently, he could put it in sort of a hard to reach spot. If I want to go after it, maybe a Tree of Life is in range to, like if he puts it right here, for example, or back here. This would be weird because I can just attack this stuff up here or this stuff over here. So his base is pretty wide open here. But if he's a little bit more compact and there's a better spot for it, I'm going to have to run the footies possibly into Tree of Life range, which is really bad. It swings for, I don't know, like 45 damage, average a hit or something. The Ancient War is a little bit less, but it's still quite a big, it's quite a massive hit when you take those shots, either on your units or your hero. Anyways, I'm going to bolt this archer and just go to town on it. I'm going to pull the footy back so the MK, I think the MK runs faster. Yeah, he's fast moving speed. So he's not going to be able to get away with the archer. He just runs it into the camp. It would have been nice to have snagged that kill, but it's the fact that he killed it The fact that it's dead at least is good enough. So he's got a wisp over here. He's actually going to build a tree of life. I'm not exactly sure when he decides to do this. I probably just for scouting purposes, it would be nice to build a farm like right here. I don't think I actually did see that wisp over there, but at some point I run over there and I do in fact see the tree of life constructed before he has crept the expo, right? So it's pretty important to note that, because if you play without that in mind and they do sneak an expo up, you can very easily fall behind. He is teching, just started his tech. This is going to be the greed play when he builds his tree of life, and this is probably what falls apart for his strategy. He probably, let's see, did he scout the second barracks? He did in fact scout the second barracks, so he knows there's a second barracks. He doesn't know if there's a lumber mill. There in fact isn't a lumber mill. I'm not towering him, so he maybe feels pretty confident here. He drops the pocket factory. Here's the problem with the Tinker, in terms of trying to play defense with only a couple of archers. Or they would have had a third one if I didn't, sort of force him to deny it at the creek. But anyways, right when the battle starts, if you have to throw the pocket factory, it's 300 health, 0 armor. He can repair it with Wisp if he wants to, but generally it's very easy for me to kill that thing before too many robo-goblins come out. I noticed that he is focusing the MK. I'm just going to try to pull whatever he's focusing back a little bit. I'm okay if he puts some damage on the MK, but that is going to turn out to be, I probably should have ran the MK up this direction, right, to take a few shots from those clockwork goblins. And I'm at like, half health right now. So going to run by here, grab a dust. I don't grab a boots or anything, boots or a circlet could have been good, but I don't have the gold to buy either of those after getting the dust and building or getting this shop. If I didn't build a shop, I could have, afforded the other stuff. But anyways, with the dust, I can just run in here and bolt. Defend is not yet completed, but he doesn't really want to stand and fight me yet with the archers anyway. So he's just shadow melting them. He's going to use his moonwells quite well. He actually keeps that archer alive. I think I split the damage between some of the 2 archers, which allowed the one to get away. But I bolt the other one, and this shop is going to come in clutch, because once I run out of mana, it does become difficult for me to secure kills. And also, I'm starting to take enough damage to where he might have a chance to kill a footy. Now, if I path him correctly here and body block him and do all the stuff, I should be able to. If I was doing this a little bit cleaner, I wouldn't have had to deny this footy. But I do deny the footy. I'm at a little bit more than halfway to level 2. He doesn't get the kill. He does take a couple of shots. He gets purged. And notice his mana is at 150. He's got a staff, which is actually pretty smart of him, and a boots. Now he's building the Tree of Life. Maybe he feels confident that he's got me a little bit on the run. I should have... Did I sync this round? Yeah, I did in fact sync this around, which is, I think, important. It forces him to take a bunch of damage for one thing, and then use the Staff of Teleportation. And it buys me, him staffing away buys me time to hit a Regen Scroll and to use a Clarity Potion, which, what am I not? Why am I not using a Clarity Potion? This is baffling. There it goes. So yeah, I should have been using it. But anyways, I use the Clarity Potion. He's going to run right back up here. And I missed his hero coming by, so that was unfortunate. I need to bolt surround him. He does have the Hunter's Haul up. He's throwing an Ancient of War up. He's tier 2. If he grabs a Panda right now, let's see his resources. Building this Tree of Life denies him the ability to instantly get his second hero, which again is, in terms of the greed play, right now this isn't helping him. This is an investment to help him later, but it leaves him a little bit vulnerable right now. The fact that he can just defend this with 3 archers is a little bit irritating to me, to be honest. I think I do cancel this. We'll see. Canceling this is actually going to be a pretty big deal because it's going to hurt his lumber. Actually, do I go for the cancel? Or do I just go for the units here? I think I just go for the units. I don't know if I actually do end up canceling this. We'll see. Oh, I need to just cancel it. Just cancel it, bro. I get the surround on the hunt. I think it's way more important to get the cancel first, because once that gets up, it's going to be really dangerous, because Adept Druids of the Claw are dangerous. Oh my, I had this, I think he has a staff ready, though. The cooldown was probably done. He probably could staff out, but he would have taken a massive amount of damage or burned his TP. But I basically went for the hunt kill instead of the cancel looking back, I think the cancel is way more important because just a single dryad all of a sudden changes the game, especially when I'm running around with like 150 health on my MK. Right, if I get slightly out of position, if I'm a little sloppy, which again happens to me frequently, to be honest, like it's about to happen right here in a minute. I think right here, I kill this hunt. Building the hunts, it's not the worst idea, and the other sheep blocked him a bit. Do I miss this around here? I feel like I do maybe miss this round. Maybe I don't. Oh no, I end up. Oh yeah, I did miss this round. That was a pretty long. That was a pretty far-reaching one. So these rifles here, going for the rifles. I'm still tier 1, right? So this is what happens frequently. It's gonna sort of. It's gonna be. 1 second. The game is going to sort of be on a little bit on a knife's edge here because despite all the stuff that's gone sort of well for me in the early game, I'm level 2.5. He's literally 0 experience. His tech is going to be pretty dangerous if I don't play cleanly because I've taken so much damage on the MK. If he manages to force a TP, he buys himself enough time to creep this Expo. But I do, in fact, at this point, I have scouted it. I don't exactly know what. I think I ran the MK by there and I saw the tree. So that's pretty important. If I don't scout this and maybe I don't think his Expo is quite as early, I don't get there in time, he gets 1 protector up, it becomes, he's got a tech and eventually the gold advantage, and that's really bad. So he wants to go creep this, but he also can't just leave his base wide open. I need to keep this MK back, but I also want to get a bolt in. So it's like, defend. I should just immediately just bolt his hero, go for the surround. I didn't surround him with the MK. It's going to be close. It's like, the MK is going to get chased down. The Dryads, the Hunt, quick movement. And I have enough for a bolt. Oh, I should have bolted him. Could have played it a little bit more aggressively and gone for the bolt. Now he immediately runs up here to get this shop knocked out. The fact that this shop is not my base at this particular moment actually is quite painful. Luckily, there is a path out of my base, which was another thing I was super worried about. I was like, oh my gosh, if I block myself in this base, that probably buys him like 10 extra seconds. I moved this peasant, and in fact, there is enough room to get out. I was like, oh my gosh. There for a second, he wasn't moving. I was like, I was really tilted. I was really sort of on the verge of getting tilted there. Yeah, so I go for this. I'm going to have to get a TP scroll, and I'm going to go ahead and grab an Inwell potion. So delaying my tech as significantly as I did leaves me in a weird spot because he gets this big sustain from. Sorry, the microphone here is sort of messed up. Getting these big sustained heals is gonna is gonna be hard, especially once he gets to tier 3. He's quite far from tier 3, right? So the bears are not in the mix yet, but I can't afford to let this expo go up, right? So the timing, I don't have a regen scroll. I picked up a heal scroll. Actually didn't get a TP. I'm like, the gold, I can't afford a TP and to get like all this other stuff. So I was like, all right, we're gonna go in with no TP. I have a big army. I feel like I should have a level advantage. He's 2 and 40%, 2.4, level 2.4 or something like that. So I'm level 3, 3.4. I see that he's got a Druid of the Claw over here that's wanting to get away. He doesn't cast Rejuve on himself before I bolt, so that's pretty nice. He's gonna try to get this X-12, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna fight you in your base where your army's sitting. I didn't know he had a protector at that particular point. So double, extra bad idea to go into that base. I'm just gonna go with the Expo. And the other thing is really nice. I got a Scourge Bone Chimes at my shop, which with the MK and the footies, when you're hitting ancients, one of the few building types that actually will heal you. The other buildings are not going to heal your footies, but the living ancients actually do allow you vampiric lore to sort of trigger on your melee units and heroes. So this is going to give me some healing. 15% doesn't sound like the most amazing thing, but it's just a little bit of extra healing. Now he's level 2. I'm gonna pop off these dryads. I'm gonna try to keep the MK back. I should have tried to bolt that before he got the rejuve off, but he got it off. He's still gonna die. I could have ignored it and just went for the rest of his units. He was at full health. If I just ignore it and kill the rest of the units, then it's kind of like this one. I just ignored this. He used all the mana to heal, but he was full health, and I'm like, I'm just gonna kill the rest of your army. That's gonna wear off, in like I don't know how many seconds it takes, and the rest of your army will be dead, and then you won't have another rejuve. He's pretty close to another rejuve, but so that's the idea. I should deny this rifle. I don't think I'm going to. It's very close. Just hit it once. Oh, just hit it once, bro. Oh, that's so sloppy. So sloppy. Is he gonna kill it? Do I go for a shot? I'm just going for unit kills. I'm not even going for shots. See, if I denied it, he doesn't get 3 there, and that's pretty rough on him. Get this round. I have a bash. Ooh, I landed a bash. That's gonna cost him a TP. That's going bash. When he gets to if or when he goes into mass bears, thunderclap level 2 or 3 would be amazing. But sort of the free bash, like right there, a couple other points, right, for no mana. You do get value from bash for sure, but against the mass, bear army, a high level thunderclap actually is quite scary. But he had a mix of dryad bears, so it's like, if he's got like 3 dryads and 2 bears, you're sort of limited in what you're hitting because you're not hitting the dryads. The other thing is, if he's popping into your base, which he's gonna, this is the other part of his strategy that's, and it's part of the Tinker sort of, goes along with this type of strategy. You sort of have to find these moments, especially when you're one base versus one base. You need to find situations that favor whatever hero you have picked, which in this case is the Tinker for him. And he doesn't really excel at standing battles level 3 versus level 3 against an MK because I just will immediately focus the Pocket Factory in generally when we fight. And if I kill that thing and there's like 1 or 2 Robogobs that come out, the cooldown is really long, it costs a lot of mana, and now he's just rolling around with a Tinker with no real other abilities. Now, what he often does, and I think he does it in this game with this strategy, is once he gets leveled to like level 5 or 6 or whatever it is, at some point he will retrain to cluster rockets. So that way he actually can be quite dangerous, not just fighting heads up, but also he can still be very dangerous harassing bases, right? Let's say I've got a bunch of towers in the base, or I don't have a bunch of towers in the base, whatever it is. If I've got clustered buildings, clustered workers, cluster rockets, not exactly intending to be a pun there or anything, but things that are close together, these AoE stuns, it's actually, and the cooldown is actually very, very short. The damage isn't as crazy as the other abilities, but the mana cost and the cooldown and the fact that it stuns, and it also hits buildings, and I'm not exactly sure what the damage cap is. It may just not have a, the damage cap may just be like as many units and buildings and stuff as you can hit, but it just does a small amount of damage. So that might be sort of a benefit or a sort of a pro of the ability. There might not be a hard damage cap, right? Because it certainly seems like at certain points the thing just ravishes like farms and stuff, and towers even, right? So, but yes, I'm level 5. I don't really want to creep this. I just want to grab a TP scroll, maybe a heal scroll or something. Do I grab a? I feel like I grab a heal scroll as well. It'd be funny to deny him that tome. I'm not sure how long the cooldown is, but I don't. And also having the tome for retraining to Thunderclap, I really thought about it, and it might have been, okay. I have to micro this properly. I need to make sure I try to limit the number of kills he gets, and also, sort of the main thing about that is killing the Pocket Factory. You see, there was like 2 maybe 3 Robogoblins came out of there. Now I'm in his base though, so it's like, all right, if you want to stick around and do your harass nonsense up here, which again, it's coming, right? If he's doing this strategy, if you give him time, he's level 3. If he's a staff, blah blah, he's gonna try to find time. Looked like he was trying to come right at me at first with the archers, right? But earlier, but he realized he just couldn't do that in the face of actually the MK. So as I knock off that ancient allure. I don't know how far along a bear was coming out of there, but yeah, this is what happens, and this is I've run into this scenario a lot against this guy with this strategy. Um, if you are behind, like if you're literally sitting on footies and rifles in this scenario, it doesn't actually it's not as big of a disadvantage for him if he's down in supply. Like he's got actually he's got 5 bears, so he actually probably isn't really that far behind in supply, but let's see, 5 bears is 20, no, 25, no, 20 food. Sorry, they're 4 food apiece. 20 food. I've got 2 rifles, so 6 food. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 footies, so 18 plus 6 is 24. So yeah, I've got like a 4 food advantage on him, and my hero level is 5. He's 3. But like I said, the problem, I mean, level 3 Stormbolt is great. If I had level 3 Thunderclap, it would probably be devastating. But the trick is, you really have to secure kills against bears, and this is the problem that comes into play if I'm way too far behind in tech and I don't get, I'm trying to get some like spell breakers out so when I fight him, he can't just cast rejuve right in my face. At least he's gonna have to at least rejuve between the battles, and then I'll have the extra feedback damage that's gonna slowly limit the mana pool of the bears. Right, he's at 40. He losing that tree and everything. He's at 40 food, so he's 30 food. 35 food, and his max supply right now is 40, so he's gonna have to build another Moonwell. His resources are in great shape to do that, though. He could actually grab a second hero and be right at 40. That's actually what he should do. He should grab a panda here. That'd probably be pretty rough for me. But he wants to get level 4, 5, 6 on this Tinker, so that I don't think that goes with his plan, right? So alternative to that would be to build a Moonwell and a Tree of Life. Obviously, he needs to rebuild that Ancient Allure somewhere. If he can fit it back here, that'd be good. I don't Looks like he probably could. So yeah, I think he could put it right there, and that's what he should do. But yeah, but back to what I was saying though, the issue with trying to spread your damage against the bears, like ooh, I'll go Thunderclap and I'll just chip away and I'll go for sort of this raw damage. The problem is he has such efficient and crazy heals. Basically, every bear or every Druid of the Claw that comes out is throwing like a massive, like 400 hit point heal or whatever on something potentially. And if you can't stop that, like right now, if he has a bear if he has a Druid of the Claw in caster form, he just throws Rejuve on there, and what am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to basically burn a Stormbolt probably to secure that kill, or he's gonna save it. So if I go like let's say I went level 2 Stormbolt and level 3 Thunderclap with this build, I'm going to lose the passive damage of Bash, and I'm going to have to choose between using Thunderclap or Bolt. Right, now probably if I go Thunderclap main, I'm right here, it's like, well, this is probably the scenario what I was thinking Thunderclap would actually be good. So I'll probably try to get in the middle of all those bears and hit a Thunderclap, and it'll be decent. It'll do damage to all these and make them slow and stuff like that. Right, but then securing the actual kill. He's going to, potentially go into caster form, throw a bunch of rejuves up, and then go back into bear form. And if he can do that, right? 302 mana, 82, 264. Yeah, most of these bears, all but one of these bears, and the one that can't is like full health. And he's about 40 something mana away from hitting a rejuve. But yeah, they all have the enough mana to go into caster form, cast rejuve, and go back into bear form, I think. This one might be close. I think it's 25 mana to change forms, maybe. He could go into caster form, rejuve, and then wait a bit, and then go back into bear form, I believe. He would have to do that. But the other ones have like over 300 mana. Plus, he's got these Moonwells. So he could, in theory here, and we'll see if he does it, get a bunch of rejuves off. He needs to buy a staff as well, Staff of Preservation. It's really egregious that he doesn't. He uprooted to try to save that bear. He hasn't bought a staff. It's 150 gold, right? Just if he just staffs the bear and heals it, it's such a powerful weapon, right? And bolt surround doesn't matter. He just staffs, boom, doesn't matter. Even if I'm not surrounding, the staff, the cooldown, it's so efficient. It's ridiculous. Now I actually have to TP out of this fight because I'm quite damaged. and it looked like I wasn't really gonna. It looked like more likely I was gonna start losing units rather than actually killing his units. So I give him space to do something. We'll see what he does. I think he actually creeps this, which is came as a little bit of a surprise. You can creep really big camps once you get this army rolling. Like you can, the Tinker's Pocket Factory actually is very efficient, creeping a lot of different camps, especially once he's level 3 or higher. If you've gone engineering upgrade, and then with the bears, whatever damage he sustains, he doesn't want to do it in the middle of with these troll priests up because they can abolish magic. But once he finishes creeping the camp, um, he can go ahead and heal the damage that's done. He has to definitely be careful not to lose any bears, but yeah, I don't think he will lose any here creeping. See, this rolls up and boom, rejuve. Between the battles now, I don't actually. I'm gonna start. I get a couple of priests eventually, but I'm just gonna pop out a couple of breakers, and I want to I want to bully him. And I see that he didn't expand here, he didn't creep it. I was like, okay, this looks interesting. I see a bear going over here, and this alerts me. Okay, he's either doing this or this. It seems unlikely he'd be here. I think the bear's path would have been slightly different. Maybe could have been going that direction, I guess. But anyways, I'm just going to go for the bear kill. Again, he doesn't rejuve it. This is a problem with Rally Jack, a free kill, pretty good. Um, Actually, I'm going to pick Bash at level 6, which is going to seem absolutely nuts, but uh, the mana cost, I think I'm just generally going to be using the mana for Storm Bolts. So, and level 3 Bash actually is nothing to sneeze at, to be honest, when you're bashing like bears and stuff. He staffs in. He doesn't have a TP. Staffs in. He has a one. He picked up a staff of silence here. I didn't actually notice that. So, but I did. Like I said, this was in terms of what I thought was very likely. This was. I'm going to scout this with the militia to be sure. But I was very. Scouting him would have just confirmed it, right? Scouting or clicking his hero to see what item he got. But yeah, I'm going to go for the Pocket Factory. And this is what I'm talking about in the battles. Like, look, his Pocket Factory is gone. What's he going to do? He actually sells the Staff of Silence, which, it's, temporarily me not being able to bolt isn't really the biggest of deals. I don't really have any casters, and I don't even have a second hero right now. But he probably actually would have done better with it. I mean, he's got tons of gold anyway. Did he get like 300 gold or something from that? I don't think he's gonna really be able to leverage that gold for much. I mean, he already had a bunch of gold, so I think just saving it. I mean, this is a little bit of hindsight. If I don't have another hero, it probably doesn't look that scary against just a solo MK. But yeah, I need to. Here's the other thing, and this is something that sometimes I'm lazy to do. This game I wasn't totally try hard, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to save these footies because the problem can come where he hits 5 and then if he ever manages to hit 6, it becomes his ultimate is a game changer, and it's really, really irritating to deal with, especially if he retrains to cluster rockets, right? Because normally it's like we start a battle, he pops a Pocket Factory down, I kill it immediately, and then it's like, it's really just his units versus mine, honestly, and my hero being much more generally powerful, right? Because I'm bashing stuff and I'm hitting level 3 storm bolts on him and everything, but as soon as he retrains to the cluster rockets, all that changes, especially if I don't have any magic immune stuff. If I'm like literally a whole bunch of like sort of lowish hit, they're not exactly super low hit point, footmen aren't, but if they're all clustered together, right, I'm giving him sort of a prime situation to hit me with cluster rockets, and then things are constantly being stunned. So knocking like 80% of my army down to 0 damage output, for whatever the amount of seconds is every total from all the cluster rockets that he's going to cast for 70 mana, I think it is. Let's see what his mana pool is looking at. Like 405. So he can literally get like 5 and then nearly a 6th one off. So 5 and then hit a Moonwell and get a 6th one. That's a lot. That's a lot of stun, and the cooldown is really quick. So it doesn't sort of as a one-off spell cast, it doesn't really seem that strong. But if you're hitting like massive chunks of units and you're casting it, over the course of like, I don't know, a 20-second battle, you're hitting them like 5 times with it. It does really start to add up. And then all he is really aiming to do, I mean, he loves to be throwing cluster rocket or shooting cluster rockets, but he really wants to get that ultimate. He can get that ultimate, and if he can just get himself a little bit of time, he can literally just get that hero over there and cause all kinds of havoc. Even with just the cluster rockets, even before his ultimate, if he gets in my base, puts himself over here, it's like, what am I going to do? I can't really sit here and mine because of cluster rockets. If I move these peasants anywhere near these farms in this tower, he's still going to rain fire on them. I think the range, he probably could hit the tower in the cluster rockets and actually be out of range. Kind of like the Blizzard situation, or if you do it correctly, you may be able to. You can for sure with Blizzard and Flame Strike and Rain of Fire. I would bet that you could do the same with cluster rockets, but I don't really do the spell enough to know, so it's just an assumption. But yeah, you can definitely find soft targets here. Really, the softest of targets are going to be the workers, right? And if I have to pull these workers off the gold line, he doesn't actually have to kill them, and if they're not mining, that's sort of he's doing his job. His harass is being very effective, dropping me to 0 gold income. I can't do the same to him. His workers are hidden in the mine, right? So it becomes a very annoying game if I try to throw up an expo, which I'm actually going to do this, but it was more of like, maybe I'll expand if he goes to cancel it. It doesn't really matter, whatever. He actually has a wisp over there. So with the wisp alone, I should have been like, I think I did actually see that wisp. Maybe I didn't. I feel like at some point he moved. I don't know, but maybe I didn't see the wisp. But anyways, this is right by his base. It's like, it's trying to expo there is a little bit interesting, a little bit greedy, I guess, but risky, I guess I should say. But anyways, I'm trying to pull these rifles back. I'm trying to keep this experience. Look, there's a footy. There's like 4 footies he could potentially go snipe. There was a rifle. Did I get the rifle away, or did he kill it? It looks like he killed that rifle, which is sad. He has the Venom Orb, so he can spread the poison damage. And in these small battles, that Venom Orb has a lot of potential. Even on a melee hero, right? Normally you'd like it on a ranged hero, or you'd like multiple Venom Orbs on multiple ranged heroes. But if I'm not killing his hero, right, and he can just spread damage out, the value is basically adding like potential 50, I think like 54 damage a hit. He's going to come in here. I'm going to bolt him. I'm going to get the surround, I think. Yep, get the surround. I'm going to be mana siphoning him. And I hold the surround, and the vampiric. Ooh, I got the kill on him. That's crazy. I should have ran to the tavern, right? I didn't expect he'd be that bold just to get him back. But it's a massive cost for him to do that. And I don't really, I mean, he needs his hero, and I would love to totally deny him that hero. But I'm actually not really all that scared of the Tinker. I don't even know if he's retrained to cluster rockets yet. I wasn't paying close attention. Maybe he did there already. But he's going to have to get mana. His Moonwells are pretty drained right now, actually. He's going to have to burn, I don't know if that was a clarity potion. I'm just going to come back. I'm throwing this expo up. I'm throwing this tower up. He's going to have to deal with that. I'm coming in here. I've got some breakers now. All right. I've got, 1 breaker, 2 breakers. I got probably some more on. Actually, no, those are the only 2 right now. They're like 215 gold or something. So not the cheapest, but a little bit cheaper than a bear. Yeah, see, he does still have pocket factor. I'm gonna mana siphon him. Try to pull these things back. I need to be careful with these heroes. Yeah, basically the only thing he could really, if I can sit there and mana siphon him and just bolt, send mana to the MK, he can't really beat me in this battle. And the other thing is he's not gonna, if I mana siphon the bears, all of a sudden he can't even heal himself with the bears. So that's a big deal. So the Moonwells, pretty drained, 27, 13, 12. These bears have mana, but like I said, the presence of a couple of breakers. Let's see, did I steal? I know I stole at least one of the rejuves at some point. But yeah, he just can't, he actually can't, if he casts rejuve, he's just going to get it stolen, probably. Assuming I have the mana, right? So I'm going to pull back. I killed that bear. That could have went much smoother. But it's fine because his mana is his mana. He still doesn't have cluster rockets. He's on 66 mana on the Tinker. Do I kill that footy? That footy is like super low. Like 1 hit's gonna kill it. Oh, that Robogon was actually gonna kill that footy. Jeez, dude, I did all those efforts to pull stuff back and everything. I still being this is what I'm talking about, being sloppy, right? I'm actually gonna have to TP out of here, but I do kill I do kill his Ancient Allure there, so he's in a weird situation. Now he actually goes to expand bottom right, and he doesn't know that I've got this expo going up. Actually, he's really close to level 5, so what he's going to do is he's going to creep this. He doesn't even, he's going to get this, like, the first creep he kills, he's going to get level 5, so, but, you know, it is what it is. There's a green over here you could have grabbed, but he wants the item, he wants all the resources, you know, he can heal, it doesn't matter, it's a big camp. It's you know, you might say it's slightly inefficient not to have a second hero for the rest of this camp. He's got the resources to pick one up. He probably should have, right? I don't know if he wants to get a demon hunter or a panda. Probably a panda. I still don't have a ton of magic immune stuff, but I'm starting to transition into more breakers and actually hit tier 3 now. Which part of that was because the fact that I had the Scourge Bone Chimes. I was like, well, you know, knights. You know, I think I've gotten some upgrades for the. Did I get some upgrades for the footies? Yeah, I got 1 attack rate. But the Vampiric Aura on knights, you know, they're fast moving, so, you know, they can potentially chase them down easier than the footies can, and even the breakers. He's going to cancel this. I'm going to deny. It doesn't really make a difference here, but it's better. I'm going to deny this peasant, right? And it's good to get in the habit of doing that, even if you don't know, right? Like, I have a good. If I was paying close attention, I would know. Hey, there's no way that he's really close to 6, right? But every little bit, right? If he ends up getting there with just like 1 peasant kill, if it makes a difference, like, you know, a few minutes from now, right? It could be the difference between, like, you know, me winning the game and losing the game, right? Now, it's not really gonna make the difference here, right? But you don't know, right? I don't know how the rest of the game's gonna play out. And to think that if I could have literally just, like, last hit something with a tower or whatever, I can't deny the tower, sadly, so that sucks. But he's gonna get some experience from that. But I did scout this at a pretty decent time. I guess he can't defend that. Maybe he can't TP there because it wasn't finished. He doesn't know how close I am to it, but it was halfway done. You know, maybe lets that finish. Maybe not. Maybe it's too aggressive to try to get an expo at this particular timing, based on the way the rest of the game is gone. Maybe probably true. Because if he lets it finish and I go over there, well, the militia is going to be chomping on it a little bit. But if I just show up and it's like, you know, 85% health or something, and now he has to TP defend it. If he can't defend it, he just costs himself a TP. He probably commits to a battle he doesn't really want to fight in a place that's open ground, and now he doesn't have a TP. So it's like, he'd probably try to play this hit and run game and just try to find kills. He's not really close enough to 6, I don't think, to make this a potential way to get it, right? He would love to be in my base, hitting cluster rockets or dropping pocket factories or whatever he's set up to do. But and if he has enough time just to do it freely, that'd be bad news for me. But I'm not going to give him the time. I'm just going to go into his base. You know what? You want to go to my base? I'm going to go right into your base. And now I've got 1, 2, 3 spell breakers. Have, you know, a couple of priests. He has retrained to cluster rockets. He hits my hero with it, which I think he should have been aiming up here, but it is what it is. It's not, I mean, I'm mana siphoning him. It's just not a great situation for him. I'm bashing. I think it's like a 45% chance to bash. Well, level 3, so pretty good. Get his mana. Mana siphon is the other big sort of the big wild card here. If I don't have mana siphon, he's gonna have another like 3 or 4 cluster rockets to throw. Now, I have Spellbreaker, so that might not sound like very much, but just imagine these footies getting cleared out. Maybe these priests or these rifles, right? Getting them to 5.6, 5.7. You don't know. And then boom, all of a sudden it's like bears versus Spellbreakers. But everything else has gone well enough to where, like, I have sufficient breakers. He doesn't have some expo that's hard to dislodge. He didn't really ever get an expo up for very long. Let's see, this one's at 12. Yeah, he didn't. Did he literally not mine anything from that expo? Wow, yeah, he built the expo, didn't mine from it, lost it. He built one over here that he canceled, so he didn't get to mine out of that. You know, and I just, on top of me, he loses a archer early. like, things went pretty well for me. I denied it, I pulled enough units back, kept him from really getting close to 6, and just staying. Like, imagine if I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go creep. I'm gonna creep this with a blood mage and split my army or something. He was on the way to retraining and going for the soft target, going for the lame type of strategy, and that's just what you generally do a lot of times with a tinker. Once you're 5, he doesn't really have many options, right? He can't. He doesn't really want to square up with my heroes, even just the MK alone. He doesn't really want to square up against that. He wants to do this. He wants to get away and do this lame, kill these workers, chip away the economy, give himself enough time, maybe sneak an expo, at some point during the game, sneak, slowly start to creep up to 6. If he's got one hero only and he's tier 3, he's gonna get bonus experience. And then once he gets to 6, all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, he could literally have like almost no mana, go into like Robomech form, pop that tower off, and now I'm in this nightmare scenario where it's like basically for the rest of the game, he's gonna be looking for times to get into my base with my army not there. Right? And even if my army's there, he's going to be running around at really fast speeds. He will frequently pick up a boots. All of a sudden, I think you can still bolt him in mech form, so you can still get that stun and stuff. But he's going to have a lot of strength in that mech form, which means he's going to have a lot of hit points. And the speed, the fact that he's going to zip around. And then if I bolt him and then, he staffs away. Bash is another thing that Bash is very good against is a player that's doing this type of stuff, and he's going to constantly find himself trying to like staff back in a situation where maybe he's surrounded or something, right? Or bolt. I'm trying to bolt him and keep him in place, so he has to try to find a moment where he can staff away without getting stunned, right? Because if he gets stunned, well then the staff is canceled, and now he's is he surrounded? Is he about to die? But the Robo Goblin, the Robo form, right, or mech form, whatever you call it, is it gives him a bunch of strength. It gives him extra damage in his buildings. Like I said, the base race situation, it was bad enough with either Pocket Factory or even Cluster Rockets having to deal with like a level 5 Tinker. But now just his auto attack is actually sick, right? So like expos are all of a sudden, on the menu to destroy, or at least, like hinder significantly. The main base is definitely at risk. Once the towers are gone, he's like literally any of these buildings are at risk, right? And he's just war of attrition. He wants to do some damage, make me stop mining, make me repair stuff, make me dance workers around, kill the workers, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, his mind's running. He also at this timing, we're 21 minutes in. We're 21 minutes in, and he can uproot and take this 2,000 health Tree of Eternity, and if he gets Nature's Blessing, it's going to be 7 armor. Uproot that Joker, move it to an Expo, and if it gets entangled, it's going to be hard to it's going to be hard to knock it down, right? If I've been playing one base and everything is kind of like it is right now, just imagine if where's my army? Yeah, just imagine if things were a little bit closer and things didn't go quite as well for me. And imagine instead of me being level 6, maybe he was level 6. He was a solo hero at level 6. Maybe I'm 5'2", still on my hero levels, but maybe he gets level 6. Just imagine, right? How much experience did he need for that? Looks like he needed about 360. So, how many units is that, or heroes levels, blah blah. It is what it is. But just imagine that he does get it. This is open enough. He can find a hole. If there isn't a hole, he can move a wisp in and staff in. Or he can literally just roll up right here. And if he's Pocket Factory, he can throw it wherever. He can throw it past the farms. He can throw it whatever. Or if he's Cluster Rockets, he can literally just come in here and Cluster Rockets that. Cluster Rockets the gold line from over here. Yeah, he doesn't want to stand in the Arcane Tower. I don't know. It'd be really annoying, but I'm not actually sure. Does the feedback work on the mech form Tinker? Right? Because if it doesn't, that's a massive weapon. He can literally stand right here and just cluster rockets. And then if he's 6, he can start pounding that farm, or he can he might actually be able to. I think he gets a little bit more range when he gets in the mech form, so he might actually be able to hit that tower right there too. So tower positioning is critical. If you can sneak it, get a zeppelin or something, sneak in the back. It's like you can literally sit anywhere in the base and start just teeing off, right on the workers, on the farms, on whatever. And now I'm like, well, what am I going to tee off on? I've got like possibly footies and breakers and rifles. I'm trying to tee off on a 2,000 health Tree of Eternity, 900 health Ancient of War. He's the danger in the base with level 6. Me with level 6 is more a danger to units. I don't get like a super uh, massive jump in damage against buildings, right? I really get like almost none unless I go Avatar form, right? And that's just a base damage jump. It's not as much, right? I think it's literally like 3 times the damage or something against buildings in mech form. So it's like, and that's buildings. It's not like it doesn't give him siege damage. It gives him like a multiplier on his attacks against buildings, no matter what armor they are. So I think that would be nice for like siege units. Not, I mean, not in addition to what they already have, but like sometimes we have like demolishers, certain like the human towers, for example, or unupgraded orc towers. The siege units don't do extra damage to their heavy armor buildings, right? So it's like, that's kind of if like human masses up towers, it's like, wow, I built 2 demolishers, but they're taking forever to knock these buildings down. It's like, oh well, they're heavy armor, so it's not, their sort of function of knocking buildings down against unupgraded uh, uh, org towers, or just every human tower, because they can't become fortified. Except for cannon towers, excuse me, guard towers, I should say, guard towers and arcane towers, if they are those. They're not going to take extra from demolishers, from any siege unit, so uh, which always seemed weird to me. But I'm not really the biggest fan of a tower mass type of strategy. So of course I would say, well, it'd be nice if demolishers did more against towers, because I don't like to mass towers, so it's not going to affect me too much generally. But anyways, tangent aside, we got this scenario where I did well enough to be slightly ahead of him. I've kept him from getting level 6, thankfully. If you just trade, like sometimes I'll just trade, and I don't really think about it. But if you're up against somebody which is a little bit rare to see somebody just playing one hero strategies, I do it a lot, right? But a lot of people don't. The one thing that can happen though is if you're trading units over and over again, um, with a person like that, is they can maybe hit level 6 first. It's weird. I had 2 heroes and I hit level 6, but that's sort of because I was in a little bit more of a dominant position, based on the early and mid game. So, um, let's see. The resources were probably, yeah. Wow. How did he? Oh, I guess I danced around when he went in my base one time to harass, and he basically did enough, you know, distraction to cost me about, nearly what, a 290 gold or something. So neither of us got hit with upkeep. We both, sort of managed that well, and we were trading units and stuff, so it didn't come up. Um, lumber harvested. He harvested quite a lot more lumber than me. I don't know if that's because he had more units, or just because wisps, like, they don't have to run back and forth. They're just sitting on a tree. And I don't think I ever really harassed his wisps. So maybe that's maybe one thing I need to try to incorporate more into fighting into those bear strategies. Just run in there and kill as many wisps as I can at some point. If he's out creeping or something. But the problem is a smart player can shift the wisp in and out of the gold mine. And I don't exactly want to be dumping, storm bolts on one single wisp that he can just detonate anyway. He can deny me the experience. He can maybe hit me if he hits me with a bolt, or sorry, if he hits me with a detonate. It's going to be, really bad. So, and then I won't have bolts for like other stuff, like his hero or his units, and then his units end up maybe beating me, or I can never sort of get a beat on his hero. I can never sort of start knocking him down, forcing him to TP and stuff. And now he's running around, and he's buying himself enough time to get the bears and stuff. It's just like, and then maybe the expo, and it's just like, it's like I said, if you're going MK, generally you want to be able to get surrounds, you want to be able to secure kills, because you're gonna and if and until you get either Mana Siphon or Brunch Aura, you're gonna start running out of mana. I bought a lot of clarity potions there to keep myself in mana, but that's a sort of a temporary solution, right? Long term, it's the cost efficiency of that starts to be, you know, if you're securing kills, it's cool, but if you're, you'd rather just have Brilliant Sora or you'd rather just have Mana Siphon. It's just the timing and stuff. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons why people do go two heroes, right? Because the power spike once you get a second hero, and the fact that it scales incredibly well, right? It's like, would you rather build two rifles, or would you rather have like a blood mage or a paladin or an archmage or a panda or Naga or whatever it is in that particular battle? Almost every single time, the level one hero, even a level one hero with no items, right, is gonna you know it's gonna be stronger at that particular timing. And as 5 minutes later, it's gonna be even. It potentially has the potential to be even more powerful. Plus, it gives you more inventory space. Plus, if I hit level 5 and there's still a bunch of creeps left on the map, without a second hero, I'm going to be pretty handicapped in terms of like taking advantage of those creeps. Right? I can creep them, I can get gold, I can get the items, but without that second hero, I'm not going to be getting the experience. And if you do get a second hero, be sure if you've got a level 5, or even if you're trying to just get the balance a little bit better, move that first hero like a screen away. Like, be careful when you do this, but keep him away from the creep camp when you're creeping it and killing it, and keep your other hero in range. And that way, your other hero will get all the experience, and there won't be the penalty that's associated with a higher level hero. And at level 5, the penalty is 100% of the creep experience is doing nothing for you on that hero. So, but anyways, I thought this game was pretty interesting. Luckily, I played it with enough sort of microed and macroed, and the strategy was good enough to keep him under control. This is a big map, so like I said, if I played a little bit more cautiously and give him time to get his strategy up and running, get that expo up and running, it's really hard to dislodge that. Even like, notice how even I was going mass tier 1, like I had to basically get right on that thing, and then he was able, even though he teched really quick and he only had like 3 archers, or maybe he built 4, but he at certain points only had 3. I couldn't just like literally just run into his base and say, you know what, I'm gonna run into your base and just beat you down. It's like I could sort of do that, but his expo was holding up. Maybe if I do it cleaner, maybe I could get away with that, because he didn't need to creep that expo. Right, so if I played it clean enough, maybe I never have to TP out of his base, and so maybe he never does get the potential to creep the expo. But like I said, yeah, you make a couple of errors, and then boom, you have to TP or something, and now you give him, if his expo is already done, he can uproot it, or his tree of life is already done, he can uproot it, walk it over there, use it to creep. I don't even know if how much of the camp he was able to creep with it, but anyways, though, interesting strategy. Again, he does this tinker stuff a lot. It is very, if you're a little sloppy and you don't play properly against it, you definitely can get in a situation where you feel like you have an advantage. If you were able to just like fight a standing fight against him, you could beat him, especially on open ground. But the problem is he doesn't want to give you that. He his strength with a tinker, well, anybody's strength with a tinker is going to be, and at a certain point, if you leveled him, uh, sort of the danger is that he slips in to your base when you're not there, and now do you TP? Does it even matter if you TP? The damage is probably going to get done, and then if you TP, you give you've sort of taken your foot off the gas. Maybe you're out of position. Maybe he's creeping an expo. Maybe he already has an expo, and you start trying to play defense against it. And then, like I said, if he's level 6, playing defense against it is way more difficult. If you get a couple of sorks, right? The problem is you start making too many ground units that are, squishy. Priests, sorks, can even make footies or rifles. Basically anything that's not spellbreaker, magic immune. Even griffins and stuff can get hit by it. But the thing with griffins, though, obviously, if I had to try to transition to them, is he probably goes less into bears, more into dryads, as soon as he sees the aviaries or as soon as he sees the griffins. And then the other thing with griffins is they're not nearly as good at killing heroes, or sort of at least containing heroes, and they're also not nearly as good at killing buildings as knights, footies, and maybe not breakers. Right, breakers don't do very good damage against buildings, but But the other problem is if he goes into Dryads, well, now Griffins don't do anything. So if half my army is Griffins, well, now he's just running around with he just masses into Dryads, and Dryads are reasonably strong against. They're decent against footy. They're okay against footies. They're okay against breakers. Uh, they're not really great against rifles, but if I have a small number of rifles, because I've been going Griffins, which are very costly, it doesn't really take much for them to kill the rifles off. And now I don't have great sources of damage against the Dryads. And then we're just trading units. We're back into the game of, well, who's going to trade better? I can't bolt or Thunderclap Dryads, even though I went Bash here. Bash will affect Dryads, but Bolt will not. Thunderclap will not if I have it. Flame Strike or Banish will not if I go over that with the Blood Mage or whatever. And the Griffins, the more Griffins I make, the more of my army that can't touch Dryads. Now, Dryads are not very good at killing buildings themselves. They're not really that good at, like, harassing bases that are walled off. I mean, that's sort of, not really all that hard to imagine. If he gets a Zeppelin, though, even then, he could Zeppelin in, and it's just be really irritating. But the main thing is I don't want to get myself caught in a spot where he can literally just, he already has the Ancients of Lore. He can literally just start making Dryads, and now I can't exactly, I mean, I guess I can go Dragon Hawks. I guess that would be the move. Go put the Griffin Aviaries up, maybe make 1 or 2 Griffins, and then amass Dragon Hawks or something. I guess could be the thing. Or Knights. It's weird, right? It's not a very clean. It's not like, okay, I'm just gonna hard counter you or whatever. And oftentimes it's not, right. It's not always easy to hard counter anybody's army if they're playing competently, because they're gonna do something that's versatile. And by the time you get to whatever your hard counter army is, the smart players are going to be reacting throughout. So they're gonna be scouting and reacting, right? So and if their build is good and their strategy is good, generally they'll have outs, right? He doesn't have to just make mass bears into Griffins. He doesn't have to do that. He has the tech to go a magic immune, piercing damage, poison damage, fast moving ranged unit that has abolish magic if that matters. If you got water elementals out there, abolish magic or whatever. And he can make, I wouldn't say MG is really much better. They're better against Griffins in the sense that they don't die as quickly, but they're not really gonna hit the they're gonna hit the Griffin. So they're the fact that they're melee doesn't, they're in about the same boat. They just take longer to kill. But he could actually go MGs if you only have like 1 base Griffins. He could maybe just go MGs and try to base race you, and he would be in better shape there because he can pick up trees, his pocket factories, cluster rockets, versus a lot of your heroes. Water elementals or storm, MK or whatever. Like a lot of heroes, he's gonna base race better, especially level 6. So, like I said, there's all these factors. Playing real, sort of being diligent about saving or denying units will, all throughout the game will, and also not just giving him, free 10 minutes to creep up to 5 or whatever. It's going to make your life much easier in the end when you're not having to deal with a level 6 Tinker, right? And by the time he gets level 6, maybe he's out of mana, maybe his army's gotten smashed, maybe he's on 1 base like he was here, and maybe you're also level 6 or something, right? Or you're like, 5-3 or something on your heroes or something like that. And then, then it's maybe irritating, but if you don't give him time to go do his nonsense in your base, which sometimes sounds hard because if he doesn't have a teleportation, he can go over there, do his nonsense, and then staff all the way back across the map. And, he's fast moving with the engineering upgrade and the boots and blah, blah, blah. So, like I said, they're a window. It's, it's really hard to totally control. Even when I was sort of all over him, really, really aggressive, he still had 1 moment where he got to my base and he had a little bit of time to, tinker around in there, we'll say. Pun not intended there. But yeah, like if you let him do that, 2 or 3 times, it can really, really set you back in terms of gold. He did it once, and he basically cost me nearly 300 gold, right? And he didn't actually, I don't even know if he killed any workers there. I was just having to move them around. And also, I made him like come back to his base relatively quick, because if he, if I really wasn't, pushing him right there, and he had, enough mana, or he had another like 20 seconds, he probably could have killed like half those workers at least, which would have been pretty bad. I don't know if it would have totally sunk me, but you start losing those workers, 2, 3 workers, 4 or 5 workers, a tower here and there. All of a sudden, that tinker is getting dangerously close to 6. And then he gets in a spot where it's like, okay, well, I just do one battle, trade a couple of units, and boom, I'm 6. And then he gets 6, and he probably starts playing this like really irritating lamer strategy. I call it lamer strategy. A lot of people call it lamer, but it's it is what it is, right? It's but it is like I said, it is one of those strategies that is irritating when it's executed competently, um, because it's hard to defend against, and it's in ultimate, so it's like, well, yeah, it should. You would think it would and should be hard to defend against because level 6 doesn't it's not that it's super rare, but like that's your big like your big hero level, right? And some heroes have garbage ultimates, which sort of detract from this idea that at level 6 you should be ready to rock and roll with some powerful stuff. The fact that I actually picked Bash at 6 here, that was mostly for mana issues, um, but yeah, I picked Bash. A lot of people that go DK are not going to pick Animate Dead. It's like, okay, bro. It sort of belies the idea or contradicts the idea that the ultimate is should and is generally a big like super weapon. Like some heroes just don't have it in some scenarios, just don't exactly play to that. For some in some circumstances, right? I'm not gonna say Avatar would have been bad to pick there. I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't have found a moment to use it because the main issues were largely solved with the Blood Maid, so I could have definitely been rolling around with Avatar. Um, so it is what it is, but um, so yeah, I mean, maybe actually should have picked Avatar. But I don't think Avatar would have really made much of a difference there. I don't get hit with cluster rockets. Okay, that's I don't think I was ever in danger. Actually, the MK did get a little bit low. I don't. That was probably more from the bear attacks, I would think. Um, yeah. But anyways, I thought this game was pretty interesting. Pretty happy that I won. I did miss one surround. I got the surround, and then I moved the MK, and I wasn't able to pull the. I tried to pull the footy in there. Normally, I can do that pretty well, but somehow I missed it, and the footy didn't get into position. I didn't move into position quick enough, and that Tinker slipped out. And I was like, oh my gosh, and it allowed him to put more damage on me and not take as much on his hero, and blah 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 blah. So, but otherwise, I thought the game was pretty reasonably well played on both sides. Trying to think of massive mistakes. I think him going for the expo was arguably the blunder that made this game harder for. It sort of made it easy for me, right? The game I was definitely sort of worried about him getting 6 and everything like that, but I didn't ever really feel like he was likely to beat me, right? Once I knocked that expo down, there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, these bears, I've seen this before, the bears versus the footies and stuff. It's like, but then I was able to get the breakers out. So once I basically survived his little harass, I felt very confident at that point. I realized if you sort of relax a little bit, you can still definitely mess up. Like you can sort of have a bigger army, but then it's kind of like with the Bat Riders or something. In some of these laming type strategies, sometimes it doesn't matter that your army can just smash them heads up if their army can, sort of poke and prod and find weaknesses. They don't have to fight you heads up, right? It's like, oh, you wanna try to base race Bat Riders? Well, no. You wanna try to base race level 6 Tinker? Probably not. You wanna even try to base race a level 5 Tinker with full mana and either Cluster Rockets or Pocket Factory when you're one base? No, probably don't want to do that. Uh, so it's like, it's sort of this tug of war thing, and like I said, when you're playing against this type of strategy, it's pretty important to be aware of the hero levels and try your best not to just feed them experience. It's always the case, right? And you can definitely lose games to any sort of race and a lot of different strategies if you're not careful feeding stuff, right? But like that jump in power level from 5 to 6 on a Tinker, just like on a lot of other heroes, is so dangerous that it's like it's a really big fundamental of the matchup. Uh, at least the way I play it right now. If you're playing a more standard strategy, it's probably not as problematic because you got Tri Hero. So you can heal stuff, you can staff stuff. You've got maybe more spirit, get the spell breakers quicker or whatever. Or maybe you're able to power up your expo better. I don't know, but or maybe you're able to creep more efficiently. Maybe probably with a water elemental with Archmage, but yeah. So and then maybe like a tier 2 tower push on this type of strategy it's probably really strong. Honestly, that's probably what I should try to do. But it is fun and sort of tempting to go for these super aggressive like tier 1 attempts. It's like, I feel like defend footies should massacre archers, and generally they do. I feel like with proper micro and timing and a lot of the other things, you can really just sort of confine the game to the first like 6 minutes or 7 minutes or 8 minutes and sort of, you know, hash it out and figure out who's going to win. Right now, if you botch that up and they out tech you, well, yeah, you're pretty much done, right? You're banking on that early push giving you an edge because you've spent so much on it, right? Especially if you got 2 barracks, you got a lumber mill, if you try to build towers, if you've crept nothing but you ran straight at them, essentially, you have to secure those kills. You have to get an advantage, and it's not always just the easiest thing in the world to just get an advantage in the middle of the strongest point in their art, like their strongest area, which is in their main base typically, or like nearby their main base, right? You're far from your main base. Their production buildings closer, their moon wells are closer. Their wisps are closer. Um, so they can actually use their wisp sort of proactively to hurt you with detonates and stuff, or even surrounds or pathing, but really detonates are the big deal frequently. Like 1 or 2 detonates can prove really devastating when you're sort of banking on like a storm bolt or a water elemental, or you get the water elemental out and then they just clear it away with detonates and they hit your hero. So now all of a sudden you don't have mana and you lose your summon or whatever. So, but yeah, like I said, I'll flip through the tabs here. It was, like I said, a couple of mistakes here and there. It could have gone. He could have been 6. I could have been 5-2, 5-1. And then it would have been, a game of positioning. It would have been a really irritating. It literally probably adds like 15 minutes to the game, and he probably just wins. Honestly, one base. He gets to uproot the tree, so I have to worry about him just getting a free expo. That's if he gets over there and entangles the mine, harassing that thing. I basically have to destroy the thing to harass it really. So and that's just doesn't really happen on the small army that I've got, honestly, unless he literally has no army to fight back. Even if he has no army to fight back, if he doesn't have mana, he can literally just cluster rocket me just relentlessly until my army's in shambles. And then if I don't have like a heal scroll or maybe even 2 heal scrolls, and then he pops out a bear or 2 and he goes and gets more mana, it's like, ugh, he's got these moonwells. The moonwells are a potential. The longer the game goes on, the more night time there is with the moonwells, the more dangerous they are because it gets more value out of them. Same with the bears. The longer, or the Druids of Claw, the longer they sort of are around, the more rejuvenations he probably gets, which means, like I said, the sustain. I mean, if it's the difference between killing a level 5 or 6 or 4 tinker and not killing a bear or not, right? You can see kind of like a staff of sanctuary or staff of preservation, how these things, like if it's the difference between saving something and bringing it back into the battle, it's potentially a 4-food swing, a bunch of experience. Oh, they didn't get the kill. Oh, it comes back healed. Oh, it comes back with mana or whatever. Oh, okay. So that's a big swing. And it denies me experience. Maybe I don't get level 6. Maybe I don't even get level 5, right? Or whatever. So that becomes the issue, right? With my sort of aggressive play style against this and his sort of more, you know, uh, sort of slower defensive and then laming type of strategy and then like teching type of strategy. And this is the case with a lot of people. When you do the aggressive plays and stuff, you have to play it clean. And you have to understand your strengths, just like a lot of strategy. You need to understand your strengths and their weaknesses, and you're trying to exploit some weaknesses of theirs. Because if you don't understand those things, you're just sort of like, it's not like I'm just saying, hey, I'm gonna rush, and I'm just doing that with like no kind of game sense of like what my goals are. Well, it's like, okay, you're going to rush with footies. What are you going to focus first? Where are you going to rush? When are you going to rush? Are you going to tower? Are you going to have defend the first time you go in? Are you going to have it the second time you go in? Blah, 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 blah. Like against this, if you run into a demon hunter, what are you going to do? If you run into a keeper, what are you going to do? If you run into a tinker, a panda, a pit lord, a DK, a lich, a cripple, there's all these factors. It's not just like, you can say and you can play it like, just blindly, like I'm just going to rush with footies and try to play it off the seat of your pants. But like to be effective, you need to understand. And again, if you do it a bunch, you will hopefully will be learning as you do it to understand. And the more you know about the game, the easier this is. But you're going to see what works, what doesn't work, and you should be thinking about, well, why is this the case? And then you're going to think, oh, okay, well, I should have attacked that instead. If I miss a Hero's round could have been clutch. Just killing off his Ancient of War if it's out of position could be clutch. Canceling a Protector at a certain point or canceling a Lore at a certain point could be clutch, or it could be a mistake. Going for the Expo kill at some point. That could be the move. It could not be the move. It depends on the situation, right? If he's got a bunch of items, a bunch of healing or whatever, it's probably really dumb to go for the hero kill. You know, um, so like I said, there's all these factors. Are you going to try to catch him out of his base, creep jack him, or are you going to try to, if you see him creeping, what do you focus? You focus his hero, you focus the unit, you focus a wisp, you focus Ancient of War, you try to snipe the creep kills. It's fast paced. It's real time. It's like, they're reacting too. They're going to see, oh, you're focusing this, you're focusing that, blah blah blah. So the more you sort of think about this before the situations come up, and the more you sort of, if you're, the better you understand the game, the easier it is to make sort of the correct analysis and the correct decisions there. Because if you're like, I'm just gonna rush, and then you're like, ooh, I'm running in his base, he's not here. Let me hit this Moonwell for like 10 minutes. That's probably foolish, right? He maybe is getting level 2. If he's just gonna literally let you bang on a Moonwell, he's probably gonna repair it for one thing, and then you will, hopefully then you will go for the Wisp. You won't just keep hitting the Moonwell. Generally, when you have, a small army, um, even a big army, right? If he loses a Moonwell, but he gets like level 2, 2.5, or 3 or something, and then he comes back in, it could be pretty rough. But anyways, like I say, it's like, what do you, and if you see him going one direction, or if you see a build, like, oh, he's making archers, oh, he's got a tinker, we can, sort of guessing what he's going to do next, right, from that. So it's not always that they have to do X, Y, or Z. They can do whatever they want with the strategy, but, understanding what the strategy does well and what his goals are. The goal of the tinker is to be able to level him, probably to at some point find a moment to go harass your base, if not multiple moments, get an economic advantage, get a tech advantage in some sense, right? At least not be behind in tech, I guess I should say, and then making the correct counter units. That these are general ideas that everybody's really following, but he wants to get the game in a situation where he's running around with a level 6 hero, and you're trying and failing to defend it, which buys him all kinds of time in the behind the harass or push. And then if he has a bunch of bears, he can actually run in there and threaten to kill your town hall if it's if it's somewhat open. It doesn't even have to be that much open, but if it's get a couple of bears in there, get the tinker in there, all of a sudden there's a big danger of actually just dropping your town hall. And that's a problem, right? If you can't counterattack doing that, you can't let him get in that position. The problem is if he's in that position, you're probably in trouble, because that means his army is massive, and it means he's probably level 6. He may be only level 5, right? Cluster rockets or Pocket Factory can legitimately, with bears in combo with it, can still be very dangerous to a town, but especially if he hits 6, right? Because if you're going to try to repair, boom, cluster rockets. Cluster rockets are hitting the buildings, they're hitting all the workers, they're stunning the workers so they're not repairing. And the cooldown is really fast. The stun is not very long, the damage is not amazing, but the mana cost is reasonably low, and the cooldown is really quick, right? So it's not something to just be ignored. Like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat these cluster rockets. It's like, well, if you eat enough of them, you're going to lose all these workers, and then you're not going to be able to repair. But if you have to repair anyway, like I said, you've let yourself get out of position and you're gonna get punished. And then if you TP, it's like he's probably like, well, TPing away. I'm still gonna be smashing this town hall, and if you lose it, your economy's busted, right? And he'll just do that over and over again. He can send just the Tinker in. He can staff. He can send the Tinker with bears. And there's all kinds of things you can do out of that strategy. But anyways, getting off on a whole bunch of tangents. The main thing is though, um, like understanding where the stuff is going. Like he's going into bears. What if I just made priests and sorks instead? Well, I can't steal his. I can't like control spell steal his rejuvenation or his roar. He probably should have cast roar and maybe waste a bunch of spell steals. And then yeah, roar's it is what it is on my units, but he can detonate, he can abolish magic potentially. But then he doesn't, it's harder for me to steal roar. Or, sorry, it's harder for me to steal rejuves because, and that's a mana. It costs more mana to cast rejuve, right? He can hit one roar and hit like his whole army. It's not magic immune. He can hit his whole army, and then I have to steal each one. So the efficiency there is going to be really bad, and it's generally on auto cast steal. So I should probably turn that off against this, just in general, and do it manually so I can. But the problem with doing it manually is you have to be a little bit more quick to notice things and stuff. So it's like it's the lazy way to do it. Just leave it on auto cast and just hope they don't properly counter it by popping an armor scroll or using roar or something like that or whatever. But anyways, if I just have priests, well, I need adept to dispel, and then they're not magic immune, and they don't do their damage and health is kind of they're cheap, but they're mediocre in terms of combat. They're more of a support. And then cluster rockets is just going to shred them, right? It's going to shred them, and it's going to shred the sorks. So it doesn't really make sense for me to go priest sork. But I could have made that mistake. I could have made, and I did make 2 priests, but I could have made more priests. I could have made, more sorks. I could have made more footies and rifles. I could have made just went into pure knight. I could have went into pure griffin or aviary stuff, or mortar. There's all kinds of things you could try to do. And like I said, if you're on one base, you can't afford to make too many of those mistakes. And when I say mistakes, you can't afford to be, using gold without, like, inefficiently, I'll say. Like, if you're making the wrong units, you make 1, 2, 3 units that you don't really need or that are less efficient than, let's say, breakers, right? With breakers, I don't need an upgrade. They come with spell steal. They come with spell steal. They're tankier than the priest. They do feedback damage, which is actually quite nice against the bears, and it's actually pretty decent against his tinker as well. And they're magic immune, so when he switches to cluster rockets, if he does switch to cluster rockets or whatever, you're gonna be immune to them. You're immune to it. So, um, so yeah, that's it's a pretty powerful thing to be immune to. It's like his in-game weapon, what he's trying to do. If half your army is magic immune, and like maybe not half of his damage, but maybe a quarter of his damage is coming from like a AOE spell, well, you're going to be in pretty good shape there, or better shape than if you had like priest, for example. And like I said, you need a depth. You need a depth upgrade to have dispel, and dispelling it is not quite as good as actually stealing it either. But and he's probably not going to have rejuve on like multiple targets. So if you have a singular spell steal, like you spell steal one target, one buff, that's generally going to be probably as or more efficient than dispelling a single rejuve, but having to use an AoE dispel, right? But with priest, it is what it is. So that's what I'll say about the particular strategy that he's going for. It's very rare that I'll see somebody doing this. Honestly, it's I would say it's refreshing, but it's a pretty irritating strategy. If it gets rolling a little bit, it makes the game very irritating. But I'm sure that's the same thing with a lot of strategies I do as well. So it's like, what can I really say? It's a strategy game. Find a strategy that he thinks it's fun, apparently, because he does this a ton, as far as I recall. I know I've seen him do it at least half a dozen times. Um, so yeah, if he thinks it's fun, which he must, and he thinks it's effective, and he's effective with it, it's more power to him. You just gotta, and again, the fact that he does one he maybe gets different units behind it, right? But like the fact that he's gonna get, going tinker a bunch of times, right? It does leave him a little bit vulnerable to being predictable. So if there is a weakness in the strategy, right, and I or somebody else discovers it, as they probably should if they see this a lot, um, then he's going to have to make adjustments to his play, or he's going to just get exploited over and over again. I think I've beat him more than I've lost him doing this strategy for sure. But I definitely have been in scenarios, or situations, even with humans specifically, where it's like I felt like I had a pretty good early and mid game and stuff, and then like, he just gets out like a couple of bears and he holds his base or something, and then maybe he gets to walk his expo, or maybe he just gets level 6. He doesn't get to walk his expo maybe, but maybe he gets level 6 and he just gets to play this war of attrition. Like I'm gonna hit the moon wells. I'm gonna come back to your base. I'm gonna staff out. I'm gonna kill these workers, kill some buildings. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And it's a challenge. It can be very challenging to sort of track that hero down and do anything about it. And then if he gets it to that point, a certain like he gets the game into a certain situation where he's literally like, look, you're gonna fight me in my main base with all my moon wells. Um, or I'm just going to keep harassing your base or your expo, and I'm going to go for this economic advantage. Or, um, and even if you're going to try to fight me on my base, you have to be in position. While you're in position trying to do that, I can pull back a little bit into the base while the Tinker has, a free 20 seconds to do stuff to your base. And if he can set that situation at 1 or 2 times at level like 5, he's going to get closer and closer to level 6. And it's all of a sudden you're like, wow, I don't know if I can stop him from getting level 6. Or if he actually does get level 6, you're like, wow, I don't know if I can actually beat him in his main base or stop him from doing this, like, harass, you know. Like, I can maybe stop him from killing the base immediately, but, like, you have to stop him from getting kills efficiently. Because if he can literally run in there and kill, like, 3 peasants and get away without really, like, without burning a TP, or even if he burns a TP, like, if he kills 3 peasants in a tower or something and puts a ton of damage on, like, a bunch of your buildings, and then he actually has to TP out, probably is worth it. I mean, at a certain point, if he's not even, if he's stopping at 50 food, he can afford to pop some TPs out there. And then all of a sudden, if you're not in there to force him to TP, well, he's got a staff with teleportation. So, like, if you can't force him to burn a TP, and he has one or he doesn't, well, now he doesn't even have to burn the TP. You're gonna lose that. You're gonna take that damage, and he's just gonna staff. So it's like, oh, and you building your base in a certain way. So if you've towered it, you're covered in different angles. And then if he's level 6, it doesn't even matter if you have, like, you need so many towers to really, like, actually counter that level 6, that you might as well just, like, massed up units and tried to win before that, because it's gonna be terrible, generally. So now if you can catch him with mass bears and you have mass griffins or something, well, yeah, that's lovely. That's great. If you can catch him, before he gets into your base, like I said, that's potentially pretty good too. Don't let him get in there and get those free shots on the workers, on the buildings. Force him to play your game as much as you can. Right, that's what you want to do. That's what he's trying to do. That's what most people are trying to do. They're trying to steer the game into their wheelhouse, so to speak. So, but anyways, you just produce this as wonky because he gets a bunch of robo goblins. Look, he made 154 units and I beat him with 38. What a pro! But army sizes were very close throughout the game. Resources were quite close. He slightly edged me out because of his one harass. Right, I never really I hindered his expo attempts, but I never really made his main, like, sort of made him do anything really with his wisps in the main, per se. So he never had to pull gold wisps, which generally elf never really have to do. If they do, they're probably made some big mistake elsewhere if they're pulling gold wisps. But anyways, um, lumber harvest, he beat me there, but I don't think that would really made a difference in this particular game. Experience-wise, I was way ahead, but notice he was, even with basically half the experience, he still was fairly close to the danger level 6, right? I was level 6 and not level 3, but, like, if he is level 6, it's one of those heroes that can be it's not even, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a top tier ultimate. It's above average for sure, I would say, his ultimate, but I think it's not quite as good as like Metamorphosis or Infernal or Phoenix, but it is quite strong. So, and like I said, it's very annoying, right? Like especially if you've left yourself slightly. I mean, really, you're almost always going to be slightly vulnerable to ultimates, right? Decent ultimates. Some ultimates are garbage, so that's the DK's ultimates like 99 times out of 100. It's not like you're really going to be vulnerable against it mostly. But anyways, uh, it is one of those ultimates that does, it is a big threat, right? And it's sort of a subtle one. It's like, oh, always rogue on whatever. It's like, oh wait, he's in my base. Oh, he's knocking buildings down. And you're like, oh well, lose a couple of farms. Well, it's like, okay, I'll lose a couple of farms here, I lose a farm there, I'll lose a tower here. Well, now your base is wide open, right? And it's like, now he throws a couple of cluster rockets in there, he throws a pocket factor in there, and you don't have the towers. Well, now it's like, oh my gosh, this snowballs. He's just one of those heroes that he might quite possibly be the best hero to knock down a base, especially one without towers if it's undefended. Some other heroes like it's level 5 or 6 TC, or Archmage with level 3 Blizzard, whatever. Especially if you get to level 6, right? Starfall is dangerous, Death and Decay, Earthquake, stuff like that. Blood Mage, um, but yeah, he threatens the workers, he threatens the buildings, and he can get in and out. It's not, I think maybe it's the movement speed that also is very like his engineering upgrade gives him that 10% move speed bonus at every level. So it's like, and then he picks up a boots, and it's like, oh gosh. So yeah, that's probably the other thing. Like a lot of heroes don't just come with a passive move speed buff like that, right? Like the Lich, the Farseer, and all these, they don't exactly get to run around at super speeds at level 5 and 6. But anyways, that's gonna be the end of this audio. Funky pants. Pull those pants down, spank that booty. You know how it do. Some people don't think it'd be like that, but it do. It do. Sorry, the terrible grammar there. It's sort of an inside joke between some people. But anyways, this is ScryMind signing